The severed shadow, curse from the depths. I still remember the day it all started, like it was etched into my mind with a knife. It was a bright, ordinary morning in Manila, where my life was nothing more than the routine hustle of a journalism student. My name is Miguel Aragon, 23 years old, grinding through my final year in investigative reporting. My professor had drilled it into me. You need something impactful for your thesis, Miguel. Dig deep. So, I picked Maravilla, a small coastal town in the southern Philippines. It used to be a tourist paradise, white sandy beaches, crystal clear waters teeming with coral reefs, and vibrant sunsets that drew crowds from all over. But in recent years, visitors had dwindled to almost nothing, thanks to whispers of mysterious disappearances at night. People vanishing without a trace, like the sea had swallowed them whole. I figured it was perfect fodder for a expose maybe superstition run amok, or perhaps organized crime preying on the isolated community. My little sister, Elia, 19 and on summer break, begged to tag along. "Come on, bro, I want to photograph the ocean waves crashing on the rocks," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I caved. Why not? It was just a short trip, nothing out of the ordinary. We hopped on a bus that afternoon, the salty sea breeze sneaking through the windows, carrying hints of fresh fish and seaweed. The bus rattled along the winding coastal road for 6 hours before we arrived in Maravilla as the sun dipped low. The town looked deceptively, normal-lung wooden houses with faded red tiled roofs crusted in salt, street vendors hawking grilled fish and shaved ice, kids chasing each other on the beach, and fishing boats bobbing lazily in the harbor. We checked into a cheap guest house near the shore, the kind with creaky floors and mosquito nets. The owner, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, handed us the key. "Welcome to Maravilla. It's stunning by day, but at night, ... stay indoors." "Okay." I chuckled it off as local folklore. Aaliyah wasted no time, dashing out with her camera to capture the golden hour light on the waves. I started my work right away, jotting notes and chatting up a few locals. They were friendly enough, sharing stories of daily fishing hauls and typhoon seasons, but whenever I probed about the disappearances, their faces tightened. "It's safe here, young man," an old vendor muttered, his eyes flicking toward the ocean like he expected something to emerge. "Just don't wander after 11 p.m. The sea winds get ... tricky." That evening, we grabbed dinner at a roadside eatery. Aaliyah chatted about her dreams of becoming a professional photographer, snapping pics of exotic landscapes. I nodded along, scribbling ideas for my report. It was all so mundane, the sound of waves crashing in the distance, the smoky aroma of barbecued seafood wafting through the air. Back at the room, Aaliyah insisted on a solo nightwalk to shoot some starry skies over the coconut grove. "I'll be back soon, Miguel. I'm not a kid anymore," she teased. I let her go. The town was tiny, streets well lit in patches, and a handful of stray tourists still milled about. I stayed up late typing notes, then crashed on the bed. When I woke the next morning, Aaliyah's bed was untouched. Her backpack and camera sat neatly in the corner, but she was gone. Panic hit me like a tidal wave. I bolted outside, shouting her name along the beach, through the coconut palms, even down the narrow alleys, reeking of drying fish. The guest house owner shook her head gravely. "She went out last night." "Oh dear, no one leaves after 11. This town has things you don't disturb." I called the local police immediately. Capitan Reyes, a grizzled man with a scarred face, jotted down details half-heartedly. "We'll search, but the grove is vast, and the sea, it takes what it wants." I couldn't wait. I scoured the area myself, heart pounding, mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Maravilla felt different, now eerily quiet, the sea breeze carrying a sharper, almost metallic tang. Seagulls screeched overhead like wails of despair. Aaliyah was my only sibling, the light in our family after Mom passed, young and Dad buried himself in work. I'd always been her protector. How had I failed so spectacularly? A creeping dread settled in, making every shadow seem alive. In my desperation, slumped on a rocky outcrop staring at the endless ocean, I met Silas Reyes. He appeared out of nowhere, a tall, sun-bronzed man with disheveled long hair, dressed in a worn shirt that clung to his muscular frame. He sat a few feet away, gazing at the horizon. "Looking for your sister?" he asked abruptly, his voice deep and cool, like an undercurrent. I startled. I hadn't told anyone beyond the cops and the owner. "How'd you know?" I demanded. Silas gave a faint, enigmatic smile. "Small town. Word travels like the tide. I can help. I'm a fisherman. I know these waters and woods better than anyone." He rose with an unnatural grace, almost gliding. Hesitant but out of options, I followed him into the coconut grove where Aliyah had headed. Silas led the way through hidden paths under towering palms, leaves rustling like whispers. He spoke sparingly, but dropped hints about the town. Maravilla was bustling once, he said flatly, tourists everywhere, laughter echoing. Then the vanishings started. Folks whisper of night demons, things that soar through the sky, hunting. I scoffed, dismissing it as rural myth. As a reporter, I dealt in facts, not fairy tales, but deeper in. The air shifted. We found nothing that day. As dusk fell, Silas offered his place, a modest wooden shack on the outskirts, thatched roof sagging under salt spray. "Stay if you want," he said, his eyes lingering on me oddly. "Safer than the guest house." I declined but promised to return. That night, alone in my room, sleep evaded me. The crack, crack, double quotes, echoed in my head like a sinister lullaby. I thought of Aliyah's bright smile, her teasing laugh. Then, something stirred outside the window, a massive shadow gliding past, accompanied by the heavy flap of leathery wings. I rushed out, but saw only the inky sea and howling wind. A faint, bloody scent hung in the air, turning my stomach. Determined, I dove deeper into interviews the next day. Locals murmured of ancient legends, the one who splits but clammed up fast. Finally, I found Lola Verda, a 78-year-old crone in a ramshackle hut festooned with charms and faded saints' icons. She rocked in a creaky bamboo chair, eyes cloudy but sharp. "Boy, you shouldn't poke around," she warned, fingers trembling on her teacup. "Maravilla hides secrets. The disappearances, tied to bloodlines." I pressed her. She sighed. "It's the Manananggal, but the male kind. They split at night. Upper half sprouts bat-like wings, flies off to hunt. Lower stays rigid like a statue in abandoned spots, drawn to rare blood, like bitumen, the star blood, 1 in a million. Your sister, she might have it. They don't kill outright. They keep prey as living feeders." Shock hit me. Aliyah had mentioned a weird blood test once, doctors calling her type exotic. Lola warned, "Steer clear of the old shack on the cliff. Blood there never dries, and beware the Reyes clan there, cursed." The shack. Silas had pointed out its path during our search. His last name was Reyes, same as the captain in the cursed line. Suspicion gnawed at me. That night, I sneaked to the abandoned wooden relic from wartime. Windows shattered, moss-cloaked roof jutting over the sea. Winds whipped coldly, and the crack, double quotes grew louder, closer. Inside, dank and blood-scented, moonlight pierced cracks. There it was, a lower torso, standing frozen in the corner. Real flesh, pale, desiccated, tattered clothes, no blood. I nearly screamed, backing away. This was body horror, Incarnata's severed form awaiting reunion. I fled, but felt eyes on me. A huge shadow swooped overhead, wings thumping like flesh on bone, silence enveloping everything. Obsession took hold. Silas vanished nightly after 11, and his gaze on me felt intimate, yet predatory. Under moonlight, his skin paled, eyes flashed red. I tailed him one night, from bushes near his shack. I peered through a grimy window. He sat alone by candlelight. Then, the horrific crack, crack, his body fissured at the waist, skin stretching agonizingly, bones protruding. The upper half sprouted membranous wings, soaring into the dark. The lower stood petrified. I retched, fleeing, nightmares plaguing me. Aliyah dragged away, bleeding, Silas circling above. But the twist shattered everything. Confronting him at the shack, he caught me. His upper half returned, reattaching with gruesome snaps. "Miguel, you don't get it," he whispered, anguished. "I'm not the monster. The Reyes curse. I was forced into this at 20, ritually bound by a sorcerer to guard family secrets. I must hunt hearts to survive, But I picked the dying, the suicidal, to spare innocence." Aliyah wasn't me. Disbelief surged, but another entity emerged. Feral, ragged black wings, roaring like a beast. The true controller, the hidden sorcerer behind the vanishings. It lunged, claws gleaming. Silas intercepted, sacrificing himself in a brutal clash. Torn apart, unable to realign properly, he warped flesh twisted, bones jutting eternally. "Run! Save her!" he howled. "She's alive!" Bait in the seaside cave for blood lures. I sprinted through the black grove, wings pursuing. In the dripping cave, Eli alive but frail, bloodied, dazed. "Brother ... something inhuman ... kept me for feeding, but didn't end it. We escaped to Manila. She recovered, memory foggy, doctors confirming her bitumen blood. Now, safe in the city, I pen this as my thesis journal, but the horror lingers. Nights bring crack ... crack ... echoes, watchful eyes. Is Silas dead, or prowling as an imperfect fiend? The sorcerer alive, lurking. Lately, security cams show a winged shadow perching on my roof, staring into the lens face like Silas, but grotesquely hungered. I'm unraveling, maybe madness, or Maravilla's grip endures, curse spreading, awaiting its next. If you read this, flee that coastal hell. At night, when winds howl and waves hush, you'll hear bones parting ... and you might be next.